The bridge of the invincible horizon hummed with a quiet intensity that spoke of humanity's absolute technological mastery. Admiral Catherine Reynolds stood motionless, her cybernetic eye scanning multiple holographic displays that stretched across the massive command center. Each projection represented a different slice of human-controlled space, a mosaic of conquered star systems, trade routes, and colonial territories that now spanned 3 spiral arms of the Milky Way. Her command staff moved with practiced efficiency, each technician and officer a product of generations of spaceborne optimization. Genetic modifications, neural augmentations, and decades of specialized training had transformed them into something more than traditional human beings. They were living instruments of human expansion, each one capable of processing information at speeds that would have been impossible just a century earlier. "Incoming transmission from Centauri Prime," announced Commander David Rodriguez, his voice crisp and controlled. "Governor Martinez is requesting final approval for the deep core mining expansion." Catherine's cybernetic eye zoomed in on the holographic representation of the Centauri system. 30 years ago, this had been a barren collection of rocky planets and gas giants. Now, it was a thriving hub of human civilization, with massive orbital rings, subterranean cities, and industrial complexes that transformed entire planetary ecosystems into productive economic zones. "Approved," she responded, her voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "Ensure they implement the new ecological restoration protocols. The Galactic Council is watching." The mention of the Galactic Council was both a joke and a serious consideration among human leadership. What had once been a diplomatic body of various alien species had effectively become a rubber stamp organization that validated human decisions. No other civilization could match humanity's technological prowess or strategic capabilities. A junior communications officer, barely 25, with neural implants that allowed her to process multiple communication channels simultaneously, turned from her station. "Admiral, we're receiving the final reports from the Kepler Expeditionary Fleet. They've successfully mapped 3 new star systems and identified potential colonization sites." Catherine allowed herself a slight smile. The Kepler fleet represented the pinnacle of human exploration. Autonomous ships crewed by artificial intelligence and a minimal human complement, capable of traversing unprecedented distances and making critical decisions with near-perfect efficiency. The ship's quantum communication array suddenly lit up with an incoming transmission from Earth. Unlike most interstellar communications that could take weeks or months, the invincible horizon utilized breakthrough quantum entanglement technology that allowed near-instantaneous communication across vast distances. Governor Helena Williams appeared in a crystalline holographic projection, her appearance a testament to advanced medical technologies that kept humans looking perpetually young and healthy. "Admiral Reynolds," she began, "the Interstellar Economic Council has approved the next phase of our galactic expansion strategy." Behind her, the hologram showed a 3-dimensional representation of human-controlled space. What had once been a tiny cluster of star systems was now a massive network of colonized worlds, industrial complexes, and strategic outposts. Humanity had transformed from a planetary civilization to a truly interstellar species in less than 2 centuries. "The numbers are impressive," Governor Williams continued. "We now control 17.3% of the mapped galactic territory, with projected growth of an additional 5% within the next decade. Our technological adaptation rate continues to outpace every other known civilization by a factor of 6.7. Catherine listened without interruption, her augmented brain simultaneously processing the governor's report, monitoring ship systems, and reviewing tactical assessments from various frontier zones. The human capacity for multitasking had become legendary among spacefaring civilizations. A subtle alarm triggered in the corner of her cybernetic vision, a microscopic energy fluctuation that would have gone unnoticed by any non-augmented human. But Catherine's enhanced perceptions caught it immediately, a momentary ripple in the vast cosmic tapestry that seemed to pulse with an almost organic rhythm. For just a fraction of a second, Something felt off. But then the moment passed, lost in the overwhelming confidence of human technological supremacy. Another report, another system mapped, another world waiting to be transformed by human innovation. No one on the invincible horizon noticed the first tremor brewing deep within Earth's ancient core, a whisper of something awakening, something that would soon challenge everything humanity believed about their place in the universe. Dr. Jack Harrison's research station sat nestled in the most remote region of the Chilean Atacama Desert, a location chosen specifically for its geological stability and minimal electromagnetic interference. The facility was a marvel of human engineering, a self-sustaining complex that could operate indefinitely without external support, powered by advanced quantum energy converters and protected by adaptive camouflage systems that could blend seamlessly with the surrounding landscape. Inside the main research hub, holographic displays danced with complex mathematical models and geological data streams. Hundreds of sensors, embedded kilometers deep into the Earth's crust, continuously monitored microscopic changes in geological structure, electromagnetic fields, and subterranean energy patterns. Jack moved between stations with the practiced efficiency of a scientist who had spent decades studying the most minute details of planetary systems. His team, a carefully selected group of the world's most brilliant geophysicists, quantum engineers, and planetary researchers, worked in near-silent concentration. "Something's wrong," he muttered, more to himself than to anyone else. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the lead quantum systems analyst, looked up from her workstation. Her augmented reality interface flickered with cascading data streams that would have been incomprehensible to anyone without extensive neural modifications. "Define wrong, Jack. Our parameters are showing nothing outside the expected statistical variations." Jack pulled up a series of complex graphs, his fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. "Look at the harmonic resonance patterns. These aren't random fluctuations. There's an underlying structure here that doesn't conform to any known geological model." The data was subtle, almost imperceptible to anyone without their level of technological augmentation. Microscopic energy signatures that pulsed with a rhythm that suggested something more than random geological activity. Each reading was a whisper of something profound, something waiting to be understood. "We need to recalibrate the deep core sensors," Jack announced, pulling up a comprehensive diagnostic suite. "I want to eliminate any potential equipment interference." The team worked with mechanical precision. Neural links allowed them to share information instantaneously, running diagnostics and cross-referencing data at speeds that would have seemed impossible just decades earlier. Each team member was a living computer, their biological and technological components working in perfect synchronization. Hours passed. The desert outside remained unchanged, a vast, empty landscape that seemed to hold no secrets. But inside the research station, a different story was unfolding. "Jack," Elena said suddenly, her voice cutting through the ambient hum of equipment, "these readings, they're impossible." The holographic display shifted, revealing a series of energy patterns that defied conventional understanding. What had initially appeared as minor fluctuations now showed a complex, almost organic rhythm. The geological data suggested something was moving beneath the Earth's surface, something that possessed a form of intelligence that couldn't be explained by traditional scientific models. Jack zoomed in on the data, his augmented vision allowing him to see patterns invisible to standard human perception. The energy signatures were synchronized, showing a level of complexity that suggested something more than random geological activity. It was almost as if the planet itself was thinking. "We need to contact military research," he said, his voice steady, despite the revolutionary nature of their discovery. The military communication channel was instantaneous, routed through quantum communication networks that spanned human-controlled space. But the response was not what Jack expected. Interesting data. Came the clinical response from General Michael Roberts, but insufficient to warrant further investigation. "Your funding is contingent on producing actionable research, Dr. Harrison." The message was clear. Humanity's vast interstellar empire had little patience for theoretical geological anomalies. They were too focused on expansion, on conquering new worlds, to pay attention to subtle warnings from a seemingly insignificant research station. Jack and Elena exchanged a look. They both knew they had discovered something profound, something that could potentially challenge everything humanity understood about planetary systems. As night fell over the Atacama Desert, the research station continued its silent vigil. The sensors kept recording, capturing the subtle pulse of something awakening deep within the Earth's ancient core, a rhythm that spoke of an intelligence far beyond human comprehension. Something was stirring, and no one was paying attention. The first sign of true catastrophe came without warning. At precisely 3:47 hours Global Standard Time, the Atacama Desert Research Station simply ceased to exist. Satellite imagery showed nothing but a perfectly smooth expanse of desert floor, as if the entire complex had been erased by an impossible force. No debris, no explosion signature, no electromagnetic disturbance. Just absolute, complete elimination. Dr. Jack Harrison's emergency beacon transmitted for exactly 3.7 seconds before going silent. Across the world, geological monitoring stations began reporting impossible readings. In Siberia, the permafrost began to move like liquid, entire mountain ranges sliding with impossible precision. The Australian outback transformed into a living landscape, ground rippling with systematic waves that defied every known law of geological movement. Admiral Catherine Reynolds received the first comprehensive report aboard the Invincible Horizon. Her cybernetic eye processed the incoming data streams, cross-referencing multiple global sensor networks. Something was happening on Earth, something that completely undermined humanity's understanding of planetary dynamics. "This is impossible," Commander David Rodriguez muttered, analyzing the preliminary reports. The global response was immediate but chaotic. Military research teams from every continental command were deployed to the affected regions. Quantum-linked drones mapped the impossible geological transformations, sending back data that challenged everything scientists believed about planetary structures. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, now working from the Emergency Response Center in Buenos Aires, coordinated the initial scientific investigation. Her neural interfaces connected to dozens of research platforms simultaneously, parsing through terabytes of data every second. "The ground is moving with purpose," she reported to the Global Emergency Council. "These aren't random geological shifts. There's a systematic intelligence behind these movements." Her statement was met with skepticism. Humanity had conquered countless worlds, defeated multiple alien civilizations, and transformed entire planetary systems. The idea that their home planet could pose a genuine threat seemed ludicrous. In the Amazon rainforest, an entire research outpost vanished within moments. Satellite imagery showed the ground simply absorbing the facility. Massive tree roots moved with mechanical precision, creating a living maze that swallowed human infrastructure like an immune system rejecting a foreign body. Military response teams discovered something even more terrifying. Their most advanced scanning technologies, capable of detecting microscopic changes in molecular structures across entire planetary regions, found themselves completely neutralized. Whatever was happening defied every known technological countermeasure. General Michael Roberts assembled an emergency response team. Military-grade quantum communication channels buzzed with urgent transmissions. Massive orbital defense platforms, weapons that could obliterate entire star systems, were repositioned to monitor the emerging planetary crisis. "We're treating this as a potential global threat," Roberts announced during an emergency briefing. "All continental military commands are to go to maximum alert status." But even as he spoke, the planet continued its impossible transformation. In the Siberian tundra, entire geological formations began to move with surgical precision. Mountain ranges shifted like liquid, creating impossible landscapes that rewrote geographical understanding in moments. Research teams watched in horror as terrain they had studied for decades transformed before their eyes. Dr. Jack Harrison, believed to have been killed in the initial Atacama incident, managed to transmit a single encrypted message before all communication was lost. "It's alive," the message read. "The planet is awake." Global communication networks began to experience unprecedented interference. Quantum communication channels, technologies that had allowed instantaneous communication across entire star systems, started to fragment and fail. It was as if the planet was systematically disrupting human technological infrastructure. Military command centers watched in growing terror as their most advanced technologies became useless. Scanning systems that could detect microscopic changes across entire planetary regions found themselves completely neutralized. Weapons platforms designed to obliterate entire star systems seemed laughably primitive against this emerging threat. For the first time in centuries, humanity faced a challenge it could not immediately understand or control. The planet was fighting back, and it was winning. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before the Emergency Global Scientific Council, her holographic projection flickering with an intensity that matched the gravity of her presentation. The world's most brilliant minds, those who had not yet been neutralized by the planet's systematic disruption, listened with a combination of scientific curiosity and growing dread. "Earth is not just a planet," she began, her voice steady. "It is a living, sentient organism that has been accumulating consciousness for billions of years." The evidence was overwhelming. Geological data, quantum energy readings, and the systematic nature of the planetary response told a story that challenged everything humanity understood about planetary systems. Earth was not just a passive collection of rocks, water, and atmospheric gases. It was a thinking, feeling entity that had been observing, processing, and ultimately judging human civilization for millennia. Dr. Jack Harrison, who had miraculously survived the Atacama incident, appeared as a secondary holographic projection. His appearance was haggard, his neural interfaces showing signs of extreme stress. "The planet has been collecting data," he explained. "Every nuclear test, every strip mining operation, every ecological disruption. These weren't just environmental impacts. They were moments of communication." Geological records became a damning timeline of human destruction. Each layer of Earth's crust told a story of systematic exploitation. Industrial revolution, nuclear testing, massive deforestation, ocean acidification. These were not just environmental changes. They were wounds recorded with perfect memory by a planetary consciousness that had been slowly awakening. The Scientific Council struggled to comprehend the implications. Humanity had spent centuries believing they were the ultimate intelligence in the universe. They had conquered countless worlds, defeated multiple alien civilizations, and transformed entire planetary systems. The idea that their home planet could be a sentient entity viewing them as a potential threat was beyond comprehension. Dr. Rodriguez pulled up a complex holographic model that showed the planet's energy systems. "Look at the communication patterns," she said. "These aren't random geological movements. This is a coordinated response, like an immune system identifying and neutralizing a threat." The model revealed something truly terrifying. Earth was not just responding to human activity. It was learning, adapting, and developing strategies with a level of intelligence that far surpassed human understanding. Each geological movement was a calculated strike, precise as a surgical intervention, designed to contain and potentially eliminate the human threat. Military analysts struggled to process the information. General Michael Roberts reviewed the data with a growing sense of helplessness. Weapons systems that could obliterate entire star systems seemed utterly useless against a planetary intelligence that could predict and counter every human strategy before it was even conceived. "We're dealing with a consciousness that has been accumulating information for billions of years," Dr. Harrison explained. "Every technological intervention, every ecological disruption, these were data points. The planet has been studying us, understanding us, preparing a response." The global communication networks continued to fragment. Quantum communication channels, Technologies that had allowed instantaneous communication across entire star systems were systematically being disrupted. It was as if the planet was isolating human infrastructure, preparing for a more comprehensive response. Philosophical implications cascaded through scientific and military thinking. Humanity had always viewed planets as resources to be exploited, as passive systems to be transformed and controlled. Now they were confronting the possibility that planetary systems might be far more complex, far more alive than they had ever imagined. Dr. Rodriguez's final presentation slide showed a chilling projection. The planet was not just responding to human activity, it was making a conscious decision about humanity's place in the global ecosystem. Every geological movement, every disruption of human infrastructure was a calculated intervention. "We are not the masters of this planet," she concluded. "We are potentially a threat that needs to be contained." The room fell silent. Humanity, which had conquered countless worlds and believed itself to be the ultimate intelligence in the universe, was now facing a threat from the very planet that had given birth to their civilization. Earth was awake, and it was preparing its response. The Terran Confederation's most advanced research complex burned with frantic energy. Holographic displays flickered with impossible data streams, capturing the systematic dismantling of human technological infrastructure. Admiral Catherine Reynolds stood at the center of organized chaos, her cybernetic eye processing information at speeds that would have seemed impossible just weeks earlier. "We've lost contact with 17 major research stations," Commander David Rodriguez reported, his voice tight with barely contained panic. "Our quantum disruption systems are being neutralized faster than we can deploy them." The weapons that had conquered entire alien civilizations now seemed like primitive toys against the planet's emerging consciousness. Massive energy cannons designed to obliterate star systems merely rippled across the planet's surface, absorbed without any measurable impact. Each technological intervention was anticipated, countered, and systematically neutralized with a precision that suggested something far beyond simple geological response. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, now working directly with military research teams, projected a series of complex diagrams showing Earth's defensive mechanisms. "It's adapting," she explained. "Every technological system we deploy is being analyzed, understood, and neutralized within moments of deployment." Quantum communication networks continued to fragment. Orbital defense platforms, technological marvels that could target enemy systems across entire star systems, found themselves completely blinded. It was as if the planet was systematically isolating human technological infrastructure, creating massive communication dead zones that left entire research teams completely cut off. General Michael Roberts assembled the most advanced technological intervention team in human history. Military-grade neural networks, quantum computing clusters, and adaptive warfare algorithms were brought together in a desperate attempt to understand and counter the planetary threat. "We're dealing with an intelligence that's been developing for billions of years," Dr. Jack Harrison explained during an emergency briefing. His neural interfaces were pushed to their absolute limits, processing vast amounts of data that challenged every known scientific model. "This isn't just a geological response. It's a systematic, intelligent intervention." The most advanced human technologies began to fail in spectacular and terrifying ways. Adaptive camouflage systems used by military units would suddenly malfunction, revealing their positions with perfect precision. Communication networks would drop out at critical moments, leaving entire research teams isolated and vulnerable. Orbital scanning platforms detected something even more disturbing. The planet was not just defending itself, it was learning. Each human technological intervention was studied, analyzed, and countered with increasing efficiency. What had initially seemed like random geological movements now appeared to be a highly coordinated defensive strategy. "We're being studied," Admiral Reynolds muttered, reviewing the increasingly bizarre data streams. "The planet is learning our technological capabilities and developing countermeasures in real time." Massive energy weapons that could obliterate entire planetary systems now seemed laughably primitive. When deployed, they would be absorbed or redirected with impossible precision. Quantum disruption cannons, technologies that had defeated multiple alien civilizations, were neutralized before they could even be fully powered. The most advanced human neural networks struggled to comprehend the scale of the threat. Machine learning algorithms designed to predict complex systems found themselves completely outmatched. The planetary consciousness was operating on a level of intelligence that defied human understanding. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's final report to the Emergency Council was devastating in its simplicity. "Our technologies are becoming obsolete," she explained. "Every system we deploy is being analyzed and neutralized with increasing speed and precision. We are no longer the most advanced intelligence on this planet." Military command centers watched in growing terror as their most sophisticated technological interventions became useless. Scanning systems that could detect microscopic changes across entire planetary regions found themselves completely neutralized. Weapons platforms designed to obliterate entire star systems seemed like children's toys against this emerging threat. Commander Rodriguez looked up from his communication station, his face pale. "We're losing," he said simply. "Our entire technological infrastructure is being systematically dismantled." For the first time in centuries, humanity faced a challenge it could not overcome through technological superiority. The very planet that had given birth to human civilization was now preparing to eliminate what it perceived as an invasive threat. Earth was fighting back, and it was winning. The research facility sat buried beneath kilometers of reinforced rock, a last bastion of human technological hope. Dr. Jack Harrison and Dr. Elena Rodriguez worked with a desperation that bordered on madness. Their neural interfaces pushed beyond any previous technological limitation. "We need to communicate," Jack insisted, his fingers dancing across quantum communication interfaces that seemed to blur the line between technology and living consciousness. Not attack, not defend, communicate. Their breakthrough came from an unexpected combination of quantum entanglement protocols and advanced geological resonance mapping. It was a communication method that defied every known scientific principle, a way to potentially establish contact with a planetary consciousness that was systematically dismantling human civilization. Admiral Catherine Reynolds watched from a holographic projection, her cybernetic systems working at maximum capacity. The military's most advanced communication technologies had been rendered useless, leaving them with nothing but this final desperate attempt. The first contact was explosive. Layers of geological memory crashed through their communication interface, millennia of human impact compressed into a single furious moment of awareness. It was like being hit by an information tsunami, a raw, unfiltered experience of planetary pain that threatened to overwhelm their neural systems. Deforestation, strip mining, nuclear testing, ocean acidification, atmospheric pollution. Each intervention was a wound carefully recorded and remembered by a consciousness that had been observing humanity's destructive path for centuries. Dr. Elena Rodriguez fought to maintain her neural stability as the planetary consciousness expressed its perspective. "We're not just receiving information," she gasped. "We're experiencing the entire planetary memory." Images flooded their communication matrix. Entire ecosystems destroyed. Species driven to extinction. Geological systems disrupted by human intervention. Each moment was a precise, painful recording of humanity's impact, not as abstract data, but as a living, feeling experience. "We didn't understand," Jack whispered, his neural interfaces struggling to process the incoming information. "We thought we were developing. We didn't realize we were causing damage." The planetary consciousness communicated in ways that transcended human language. It was a mixture of geological resonance, electromagnetic pulse, and something that defied traditional scientific understanding. Each communication was a complex tapestry of information that spoke to the planet's entire evolutionary history. Military analysts watched in stunned silence. General Michael Roberts observed the communication attempt with a mixture of scientific curiosity and growing dread. Humanity's most advanced technologies seemed like primitive tools against this emerging intelligence. "We're receiving something," Commander David Rodriguez reported, his voice tight with tension. But it's not like any communication we've ever encountered. The planetary consciousness wasn't just sharing information. It was presenting a comprehensive review of humanity's impact, each geological layer a testament to centuries of systematic destruction. Rivers redirected, mountains leveled, entire ecosystems transformed to serve human needs. Dr. Rodriguez's neural interface began to translate the complex communication patterns. It's not just angry, she explained. It's presenting evidence. We're being put on trial. The communication revealed a profound truth. The planet was not simply a collection of geological systems. It was a living, thinking entity that had been observing, processing, and ultimately judging human civilization for millennia. Admiral Reynolds watched the communication attempt with a growing sense of existential dread. Humanity had conquered countless worlds, defeated multiple alien civilizations. Now they were being evaluated by the very planet that had given birth to their civilization. "We need to show we can change," Jack insisted, working frantically to maintain the delicate communication channel. "We need to demonstrate that we're capable of understanding." The planetary consciousness seemed to pause. For a moment, the communication matrix held a complex emotional resonance that defied human understanding. It was a mixture of anger, disappointment, and something that might have been hope. Humanity's final negotiation had begun, and the stakes were nothing less than the future of their entire civilization. The global transformation began in moments of absolute desperation. Humanity faced its ultimate test, a complete reimagining of its relationship with the planet, with technology, and with the very concept of civilization. Admiral Catherine Reynolds stood before the Emergency Planetary Council, her cybernetic eye scanning the faces of humanity's most influential leaders. The holographic displays around her showed the systematic destruction of human infrastructure, a brutal reminder of their vulnerability. "We have two choices," she announced, her voice cutting through the tension. "Complete transformation or total extinction." Dr. Jack Harrison and Dr. Elena Rodriguez presented their revolutionary framework, a comprehensive plan that would fundamentally restructure human interaction with planetary systems. Their proposal was nothing short of a complete technological and cultural revolution. Every weapon, every piece of industrial technology was to be redesigned. No longer would human innovation be about conquest or extraction. Instead, they would develop symbiotic technologies that worked in harmony with planetary systems. Quantum communication networks were reconfigured to act as listening systems rather than transmission platforms. Industrial complexes were transformed into regenerative ecosystems. The Terran Confederation's vast space resources were redirected with unprecedented speed. Orbital manufacturing platforms that had once created weapons and colonial infrastructure now focused entirely on planetary restoration. Advanced terraforming technologies, once used to transform alien worlds, were brought back to heal Earth's damaged ecosystems. "We're not just changing our technology," Dr. Rodriguez explained during a global broadcast. "We're changing our fundamental understanding of our relationship with the planet." Genetic engineering programs were completely restructured. Instead of optimizing human capabilities for conquest, researchers now focused on developing biological interfaces that could communicate with planetary systems. Neural augmentations were redesigned to increase empathy, ecological understanding, and systemic thinking. Military research centers became centers of ecological restoration. Quantum computing clusters that had once calculated weapons trajectories now modeled complex ecosystem interactions. Soldiers were retrained as environmental restoration specialists, using their discipline and technological skills to heal planetary wounds. The planetary consciousness watched. Every intervention was carefully monitored. The complex communication matrix established during previous negotiations continued, allowing for real-time feedback and assessment. Humanity was being given a chance, but the opportunity was fragile and would require complete commitment. Industrial centers around the world were systematically transformed. Manufacturing processes were redesigned to create zero waste, with every byproduct becoming a potential resource for ecosystem restoration. Advanced recycling technologies that could break down materials at the molecular level were deployed globally. Energy systems underwent a complete revolution. Fossil fuel technologies were immediately abandoned. Advanced quantum energy converters, originally developed for interstellar spacecraft, were adapted to work in harmony with local geological systems. Each energy production system was designed to contribute to ecological balance rather than extraction. Agricultural systems were reimagined. Vertical farming technologies, combined with advanced genetic engineering, created food production systems that actively contributed to ecosystem restoration. Each agricultural intervention was designed to rebuild soil systems, restore biodiversity, and work in harmony with local ecological patterns. Dr. Harrison's team developed breakthrough communication technologies that allowed for unprecedented understanding of ecological systems. Quantum sensors could now translate the complex communication patterns of entire ecosystems, providing insights that went far beyond traditional scientific observation. "We're learning to listen," he explained during a critical research presentation, "not just to the planet, but to the complex systems that make up planetary life." The transformation was not just technological, it was cultural. Educational systems were completely redesigned to emphasize systemic thinking, ecological understanding, and communication with non-human intelligence. Children were taught to see themselves as part of a complex planetary system rather than its masters. Space exploration programs were fundamentally reimagined. Rather than conquering new worlds, human missions would now focus on understanding and communicating with planetary systems. Each potential colonization effort would require comprehensive ecological assessment and communication protocols. Admiral Reynolds watched the transformation with a mixture of hope and trepidation. Humanity was fundamentally changing its entire approach to existence, moving from a civilization of conquest to one of communication and symbiosis. The planetary consciousness continued to observe. Humanity's final test had begun. The transformation was complete, but the journey had only just begun. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood at the edge of what was once a strip-mined mountain range, now a thriving ecosystem of unprecedented complexity. Her neural interfaces pulsed with a new kind of communication, no longer a technological invasion, but a delicate conversation with the planetary systems around her. The galaxy watched in stunned silence. Humanity's interstellar colonies began to implement the radical new approach that had saved their homeworld. Each planetary interaction became a complex negotiation, a careful dance of communication and mutual understanding. The conquest-driven civilization that had once terrorized entire star systems had become something entirely new. Admiral Catherine Reynolds oversaw the most profound shift in human exploration history. Space missions were no longer about claiming territory or extracting resources. Each journey became an opportunity for communication, for understanding the complex living systems of other worlds. Dr. Jack Harrison's breakthrough communication technologies revealed something extraordinary. Planetary systems weren't just collections of geological and biological components. They were living, thinking entities with their own forms of intelligence. Humanity had finally learned to listen. The first contact with alien civilizations transformed dramatically. Where humans had once approached other worlds with weapons and conquest, they now arrived with communication protocols developed through their painful transformation with Earth. Diplomatic missions became exercises in deep ecological understanding, in finding ways to communicate with entirely different forms of planetary consciousness. Quantum communication networks that had once been tools of military control now served as intricate listening systems. Each transmission was a carefully constructed dialogue, a way of understanding rather than controlling. The technologies that had once threatened to destroy entire civilizations now became bridges of understanding. Interstellar research centers were redesigned as communication hubs. Scientists trained in complex systemic thinking worked to develop communication protocols with planetary systems across different star systems. What had once been called Xenobiology became a complex discipline of planetary communication. The planetary consciousness that had nearly destroyed human civilization now became humanity's greatest teacher. Through the complex communication matrix developed during their near extinction, humans learned about planetary evolution, about the intricate ways that living systems communicate and survive. Educational systems across human-controlled space were completely transformed. Children were taught to see themselves as part of complex living systems, not as conquerors or external observers. Every technological intervention was now viewed through the lens of communication and mutual survival. Genetic engineering programs developed technologies that allowed for deeper communication with non-human intelligence. Neural interfaces became tools of empathy and understanding rather than control and extraction. Humans could now experience the complex communication patterns of entire ecosystems. The vast industrial complexes that had once stripped entire worlds were transformed into regenerative systems. Manufacturing technologies were redesigned to work in harmony with local planetary systems. Each technological intervention became a careful negotiation, a way of contributing to ecological balance. Space exploration became a form of deep communication. Each mission was an opportunity to understand, to listen, to learn. The complex technologies developed during humanity's near extinction became tools of unprecedented discovery. Admiral Reynolds reflected on the transformation during a critical briefing. "We are no longer conquerors," she explained. "We are communication partners. Our technology is no longer a weapon. It's a language." The galactic community watched in amazement. The civilization that had once been feared for its aggressive expansion had become something entirely new. Humanity had transformed from a species of conquest to a species of communication. Dr. Rodriguez's final research report captured the essence of their transformation. "We learned to listen," she wrote, "not just to our own planet, but to the complex living systems that exist across the universe." The planetary consciousness that had once threatened to destroy humanity now served as its greatest ally. Through their near extinction, humans had learned the most profound lesson of cosmic existence, that true intelligence is not about control, but about communication. Humanity had been given a second chance, and this time, they would not waste it.